Hi. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Hello.
Hey.
Okay. Oh, we've had some difficulties, but I see that now I have, let's see who we have here. We have Dr. Dennis Martin.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello. We also have Dr. Philip Halstead.
Hey, how are you?
Hello. And Dr. Lauretta Halstead.
She'll be in front of a camera in a second, I'm sure.
Okay. And I have our insurance guru, Wayana Rocks. She is here with us. So welcome everyone to the 2020 April 24th Friday edition of Harambee Vistas Journal Forum. And I think that we're getting the technical difficulties out of the way now. Hello.
Hi.
There you are.
Here I am.
Okay. Yeah, so we have Dr. Byron Ellis. He is here as well. So thank you all for coming, and we might have a few more people coming. We have sent this out to a lot of people, and we will get a video of this also. So I just wanted to jump right in and say that I'm Dr. Pamela Ellis. I'm the executive director of Harambee Conference, and each month we are welcoming featured guest contributors, literary submissions, and community news reports. The name of our conference, Harambee, means pulling together in the Swahili language of the African diaspora. This important axiom represents our commitment to share what we have seen, what we have heard in transformation of ourselves and our beloved communities throughout the world. So visit our website, www.harambeevistas.org, to learn how you can gain access to one or more of 9 member access groups, to work with interested members on various concerns on a weekly or monthly basis. Today, we are highlighting the work of our Money Matters group, the Leadership Policy Issues group, and the Health and Fitness group in discussing personal finance, net worth, and coronavirus concerns. To participate and benefit from our work behind the scenes and gain access, join us via our website at www.harambeevistas.org. We do so hope that this program will be instrumental to furthering an upward trajectory of personal, social, career, business, and community fulfillment for each person and their family and extended networks in attendance this evening. Again, welcome. Your presence here is very much honored and appreciated in that we recognize the power of mutual networks. In speaking with one of the featured guest contributors, Dr. Lauretta Halstead, who you will hear from this evening, our conversation immediately began with what we saw as a need to reset our lives in the face of the new reality of life in a pandemic. We must be brutally honest with ourselves. What will it take for survival, and yes, optimal survival, over the next week, month, and year? Admittedly, we are wise to assess and then reassess our priorities and our values. Do our behaviors, including our receiving behavior, giving behavior, do they reflect our choices in a self-planned, hierarchical, consistent manner, reaching toward our lifetime goals so we can honorably pass the torch and the legacy to the future generations? And the other question is, do we possess enough self-love to help ourselves, our family members, and the extended diaspora to meet the needs specific to those who represent and support our mutual interests? For far too long, we have recognized the less than satisfactory support of people of color by people of color. And yes, this is a season in need of a reset. So I kind of sound like a preacher, don't I? We need a reset, right?
Reset.
So thank you, Dr. Lauretta Halstead. She started this conversation when I talked to her last week. And so I just wanted to let you all know from where we're coming from. And we have to do a serious self-study. We have to conduct this, and we have to use critical thinking skills with trusted people, our families, our fellow community members, news agencies, nonprofits, businesses, and government institutions. And that is our program. We encourage participants to seek personal advice, primarily from their private healthcare providers, while we and you all as our featured guest presenters, you make sure to provide accuracy. And however, we disclaim any liability or warranty regarding any statements made for individual business improvement or health treatment plans during our programs. We encourage consultations individually and privately with featured guest presenters in business consultation or healthcare practice. So in recognition of our mutual networks, I want to first briefly introduce each of our three featured guests: Dr. Dennis Martin, Dr. Philip Halstead, and Dr. Lauretta Halstead. Our program has outlined important questions for the presenters to which they can give us their reflections on these issues. There will be a question and answer period for those in attendance, and you may submit your questions via the comment box. And if you're unable to answer all of the questions, if we are unable to answer all the questions, please send them to our emails. And we're going to give those also to everyone. info@harambeevistas.org. And I'm going to let each of our featured guests provide their email information. But I want to just give a brief introduction. For our first speaker will be, our program, the theme is personal finance, net worth, and coronavirus concerns. So Dr. Dennis Martin, he will be speaking to us first, and he serves as the Chief Financial Officer for a federal agency in Washington, D.C. Also, he is an adjunct assistant business professor, and he oversees a budget with billions of dollars and borrowing authority, overseeing discretionary programs and domestic and international credit programs. Prior to accepting the Chief Financial Officer position, Dr. Martin served as Deputy CFO and Director of Resources for an intelligence agency. He has over 15 years experience working with financial institutions. He's a graduate of Temple University with a doctorate degree in business administration and dual master's degrees, also a master of business administration and a master's in finance and a bachelor's in finance. He is certified as a defense financial manager, a project management professional, and certified credit union director. We also have Dr. Philip Halstead, who has practiced integrative medicine for over 31 years. The course of traditional medicine over the years has emphasized symptom management, largely through the use of pharmaceuticals, which does not always lead to a cure. The frustrating reality of watching his patients attain a certain level of health became his persistent concern. And this led Dr. Halstead to focus his skills, talent, and effort on health coaching with the tenet, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine thy food. And he is available to help people with a group coaching practice. And I know that I have visited with Dr. Halstead when I lived in Bel Air, Maryland, and that was about 10 years ago. And I was always greatly benefited by his advice, and I was very happy to find out that you can still see Dr. Halstead, and he will have virtual visits with you, and he has treatment plans. So he will give us information too as to how to contact him for private consultations. And then also, he's married to the lovely, beautiful Dr. Lauretta Halstead. And she also has experience in healthcare, professional chaplain. And also, she is an ordained minister, a professor, and a writer. And her experiences have been mainly speaking to people, helping them to understand how to be heard. And she has a practice now where she works with people with contemplative conversations. And I know she has a very large encompassing ministry. So she'll have to tell you more about that, what all that she does. And it serves individuals, she serves families, and she holds sacred space for healing spiritual and emotional wounds. So you see, we have so much information here to give. And so we're hoping that this video is produced and it goes around the world. So we invite this expertise, this great panel, to talk to us on our program that we've come together on. And we're going to start with Dr. Dennis Martin. And Dr. Martin, would you like to just give us just a word as to how people can contact you? Because we like to get that out front and tell them what your website is and how they can contact you in the future.
Great. Thanks again. And thanks for inviting me on, Dr. Ellis. I appreciate the opportunity for this forum. My contact information, Martin Financial Solution, I can be contacted at info@Martin Financial Online. That's info@martinfinancialonline.com. info@martinfinancialonline.com. Can be contacted there for my Martin Financial Solution company.
Okay. And can you just give us an introduction as to your book, your new book, and when, why, and when did you release this book, and how does it relate to all of these topics that we have here today?
Well, thanks again. Financial decision making, understanding your option. I think my book, I recently released it, I think 1 February. The book came about because of my dissertation when I was doing my doctorate studies was on financial literacy in the underserved community and the financial decision making. I also teach in the graduate program at University. I think they just changed the name. It used to be UMUC, University Maryland Global Campus now, in the MBA program, and I teach a graduate financial decision making course. And as I looked at a lot of different reason of why in the title of my book, and while doing a lot of my studies, I focus on underserved and disenfranchised communities and making sure we understand financial literacy, some basic financial tenets. And the book talks everything from savings, budgeting, credit, understanding your credit score, understanding taxes, basic foundation, and focus for personnel who may know some of their options and a lot of things they do not know. And I think it's opened the eyes for a lot of people, and it's for everyone, not just disenfranchised and underserved. Amazing some of the personnel who have read the book and some of the comments and what they have learned because they just didn't know and just didn't understand some of the options that are available for them. So you can get it on Amazon or on my Martin Financial Solution website. You can also get it on PayPal.
Okay. And as you said, we know that there is a great need for this information. And we know that when young people graduate from high school, they generally don't have any type of financial literacy education. And so they're just left at the whims of the marketplace. And so it starts there, even in our schools. And I know that I worked with a phenomenal nonprofit called Junior Achievement, and they had a curriculum that young people could go through from elementary to middle to high school on training them about how to make decisions, budgeting. And so that kind of information is not always provided to our communities, but it is needed. And then if they choose to get that in college, that kind of, and then in graduate school, then that's really great. So what is your thought on the educational curriculum from like K-12 to your higher education to graduate school in terms of what's going on?
Yes, thanks for that great question. I did a deep study on financial literacy. I think only about 17 states really require financial literacy in schools. There's a lot of different programs out there. And the problem that I found was that the U.S. government spent a lot of money on financial literacy, but where do they spend that money at? It's not in the underserved or disenfranchised areas. So financial literacy really is a class thing. The banks and the credit unions, as much as I love them, they don't market to the underserved and disenfranchised area. You see mostly the payday loans, the rent, pay centers, places of that nature. So it's something that we got to really look at. I have did seminars at ROTC programs and up to middle school, 6th grade. And I really think it should start at minimum at middle school, because almost all kids have a debit card, or they understand what an ATM is. They know what a credit card is, and they need to understand those processes. And a lot of times their parents may not understand. So it's a continual process. It's not a one-time thing. We should never think we can take one class and now we know something about finance, because the consumers, the retailers are spending millions and billions of dollars to make sure you don't know, make sure you don't read the fine print so you can be educated. So it's something that got to be constant. I think it should be a mandatory curriculum throughout school. Even when you get to college, I major in finance. I was a finance officer in the Army. I can guarantee they don't teach you personal finance. They may teach you some of the other corporate type finance of accounting, but not how to balance a checkbook, the difference between credit union and a bank. Understanding that you get your credit scores or the 3 credit agencies, you can get free credit reports by yourself. So there's a lot of information out there. You're talking about understanding your options, that it's a constant educational process. When to use a credit card, when to use cash. Cash is still king. A lot of people don't like using it, but you can get some serious discounts sometimes if you have cash. But I think the biggest thing is, talking to your congressman, talking to your pastors, your civic leaders, your mayors, and making sure you can have people come into those communities and establish programs. Because I would tell you, that's another issue. You can't trust everybody. And unfortunately, minority communities is very skeptical about who they talk with about finance. It's a very private topic. Nobody really want to let everyone know how they're doing financially. They want to look good, but they don't really want everyone to know and start digging into how are they really doing. And I think this epidemic right now that's going on, COVID-19, is bringing out a lot of those issues which we probably should have learned earlier.
Yes, and I'm happy that we have Wayana Rax, because she has many years of experience as an insurance advisor. And so I've known her personally for many years. And so we talk about financial planning and how important it is for families to talk about issues like insurance, like wills and retirement planning, and then pass that knowledge on to other family members, because it's hard to get those conversations going in your family. So Wayana, do you have any questions or comments on this part of the conversation? Okay, let me see if I have her. Yeah, I don't hear from her, but anyway, you can always chime in anytime, any of us on this topic, because we know that as families, we try to encourage all the people we know to have all the different elements of a financial plan. And we know that we don't participate in life insurance like the white community to the same level. So I know that Wayana, she talks about making sure that you have policies for your children, your grandchildren, and you build wealth. So, with if you start early with insurance, you can really build wealth for families. And so just having that estate, thinking of things in terms of estate planning. So
I would tell you and just add that, financial literacy is so important, and credit and insurance for sure. A lot of people don't understand now. Understanding your credit is a valuable tool to making sure that people who don't have good credit, you pay higher rates in your insurance premium and your rental and interest rate on cars, and understanding how it works and how paying your bills on time actually work. I mean, that's something that is kind of left out. Everyone grow up and maybe their parents didn't know, or maybe they put, certain bills in their kid's name, and their credit may be not as well when they come out. Then again, sometimes, for example, me coming from down south, I had cable in my name since I was 12 years old. But the good thing about it, they paid it for my name. So I had good credit coming out of high school, but in a lot of cases, kids do not. So insurance policies, knowing your credit, understanding your options, knowing what a bank is. And I think it's very important for parents who do know to teach their kids, teach them when a bill come in, teach them how to put money in the bank, teach them how to withdraw funds and how that works. So if they don't, they would not know. You see a lot of entertainers, athletes, and people with a lot of money don't understand their options. A lot of professional athletes, anyone watched the draft last night, a lot of those guys, they never wrote a check. So it's so important, and it helps us even with getting a job. If you're trying to get a clearance and your credit is not good, you would not get that clearance. So financial literacy is more important than a lot of time we really think, how it touches a lot of different things in our lives.
Okay, I do have a question here, and it says, what about your position on teaching our young people to save from an early age? What's the best way to do that?
I had my first account when I was probably about 16. It was at a credit union. You know, you have kids accounts at banks and credit unions. Definitely look at which is going to give you the best rates. For any child to see funding and they can go to the bank and get money out, or go to the ATM so they can see, you got to show them. Piggy bank is great. You can start them off young with that. And when it's filled up, show them how much money they have, take them to the bank and get an account. You can be the co-owner of the account. And I tell you, credit unions are real good with making sure they have savings plans for kids. And they have a lot of financial literacy programs. You know, most of the time, if you work for a particular company, they have a agreement with a particular credit union that you can join, or a community credit union. Some of the community banks are great also. But I think to show them, start them off young. If it's $5, $10, whether it's a Christmas Club account, saving account, a junior savings account, and most of the communities have some type of financial literacy program or webinar that they have that they are promoting also. So I recommend that as early as possible. Early they understand what a dollar is, and they should be learning about how money works.
Yes, and I think some of that also is like tying money with responsibility too. And, you know, that's a conversation in families about what are they doing for the money and how are they getting the money. So, you know, are they doing something at home where they're getting like a chores, or are they working? So that kind of question comes into play. So how was that for you, Dr. Martin? Did you do chores when you were young, or how'd you get money?
Yes, I actually worked probably since I've been 16. I actually joined the reserves when I was between my junior and senior year of high school. So I've been working for a while now, and I definitely believe in making sure people understand, and you know, the response. Make sure you develop a skill set so you can have multiple types of jobs. I mean, as in this environment here, we see the unemployment rate and where everyone are. You know, you got to become, the new financial literacy now is being able to be technology savvy, that you can have other skills in case you can't go to your current job. And I think that's so important to make sure they develop and be technical savvy, because a lot of different apps out there, what security risks are out there, and build up your skills financially and on a level that you can obtain employment and receive funds.
Okay, I do have a question here from Dr. Byron Ellis. He also went to Temple University as well. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, and his question to us is, okay, I'll give you the exact word here. What about a Black-owned credit union?
Outstanding. They have an African American credit lead. Actually, it's headquartered in Maryland. There are a few community charter. There are some church charter. The NCUA. I used to be a chairman of a credit union here in the DMV area, where I was a supervisor and worked with NCUA as a coming audit. NCUA is the credit union to give a charter. Major credit unions should be working with anyone who want to join. You see a lot of time churches or small communities develop their own credit unions. So opportunities for that are out there. I have some connections. If someone want to contact me, that could assist. Mr. Hood now is the NCUA chair, and he's a big advocate for minority-owned credit unions.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good information.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I wanted to get your opinion, if you would, sir, on cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency. It started out good. And I would say it started out good. One of my friends say he's an IT professional. and then it kind of went downhill. It's not insured. That's the first thing. So it's not almost like you gambling. And I'll just be honest with you. And when I was chair of the supervisor committee at the credit union, $1 billion credit union, we could not secure it. We could not transfer it. It's a lot of digital, a lot of IT security that goes into it. So I'm not the expert in it, but the main thing I would say is not secure. When it first came out, some people did make some a nice investment, and then it kind of like went down. So it's a lot of different currencies coming out there now. I've got the name of the newest one that's out there, but I would definitely make sure you check with someone and be very IT savvy, understanding the risk of cryptocurrency.
Thank you.
Okay. Another question for you, Dr. Martin, would be, how do you advise individuals and families with Martin Financial Online? What is your practice specifically, businesses?
My practice actually is financial literacy education. I got a few accountants that work with me that's come into some small business and help them with their accounting, and a couple of financial other analysts. And personally, me and I have a first cousin as a lawyer that we do that talks tax and financial personal finance. So we have a couple of programs. We could tailor it to the particular audience. Of course, depending on what you need is what we would tailor it to.
Can you give me an example of some kind of project you've done recently for an individual or business or family? Or...
Yes, for the federal government, we had a small contract where we had a few employees who actually went into there and reviewed their financial statements and tried to review and see where their savings were. A couple accountants and myself went in, reviewed their balance sheets, reviewed their accounting, and saved them some money, at least 10% of their funding. Also, we had a couple of schools in the South Carolina and North Carolina area where we did ROTC program, where we did a few courses, a curriculum we built for the ROTC program. So those are some of the areas that we have been specializing in. And also, of course, seminars. I got a seminar tomorrow with a fraternity or sorority tomorrow doing, which is April is Financial Literacy Month. So it's a great timing for you to have me on because it's the last Friday in April, and the whole month of April is National Financial Literacy Month. I know it's not getting a lot of pub because of everything that's going on. So we do seminars, conferences, small business reviews of financial statements and schools.
That's awesome.
And churches. I did all my study at minorities churches when I did on my financial literacy.
Okay. Yes. And so as we talked about briefly, we would love to have you to continue to come on with us over the next year. And we are going to be buying your book. I already have mine on order, so we can talk more about specifically how we can work together. Because this is such a big issue.
It is.
And we need to keep it front and center in our discussions with each other. And let's see. So now I know we started late, so that's why we're kind of like, we're going to jump over now to Dr. Philip Halstead. And we talked last month with Dr. Halstead and also Dr. Laura Halstead about community concerns about coronavirus. And so we just wanted, Dr. Halstead, if you could again explain to people about the COVID-19 infection and how we can reduce the transmission, about the tests, the treatments, and those kinds of issues. Can you just talk briefly on those for us, Dr. Halstead?
Sure. Well, the COVID-19 is a subset of coronavirus. Coronavirus is kind of a broad umbrella of multiple different types of viruses. And the COVID-19 is the latest one of those. And it is felt to have been originated as what's called a zoonotic infection, which means the infection passes from animal to human. And, you know, there's speculation about its origins. Did it come from a wet market in China? Was it made in a lab? Whatever. I mean, that actually, in the entire scheme of things, may actually turn out to be, for our all intents and purposes now, be irrelevant. The fact is, we got a worldwide pandemic going on that we need to defend ourselves against. It, obviously has been spreading, particularly in this country. The United States has the most cases, the most deaths from it, and is continuing. One of the biggest problems with trying to contain the virus is lack of testing, for one, because so we don't really know how widespread it is now. We can only guess, so we don't have any firm numbers. But not only the lack of testing, but also the fact that there are different peaks at different times at different places. So it's not like it's all came in all at the same time in all 50 states. It all peaked at the same time. It's all going to go down at the same time. Everything is just disjointed. And it's just very difficult to really get a hold of this. There's been a lot of speculation about different treatments for it. The hydroxychloroquine, which was pushed by President Trump, with no scientific backup for its efficacy, is limited to people in hospitals and also for research projects, but not for just outpatient treatment for the virus. Although I have heard some reports where people were treating with hydroxychloroquine in different countries along with zinc, and people were taking zinc along with it, and they were getting some benefits. People in China were getting treated with intravenous vitamin C and have that turn to patients around, which I can understand theoretically, because vitamin C is a strong potentiator of the immune system, and that's really what needs to be dealt with here in this disease. Is the immune system needs to be fortified and needs to be strengthened. So vitamin C is a very potent treatment for that. But it's never going to get a foothold in this country because they don't really use a lot of natural remedies. Everything has to be big pharma, So now the thing they're doing now is pushing towards the production of a vaccine, and that could take forever. The problem with vaccines is multiple, especially when you're trying to create one very quickly. I mean, there's a couple of problems with it. One is that there's already 8 mutations of the COVID-19 already. So if you make a vaccine, you can't make a vaccine against all 9 mutations. You can only make it against one particular mutation. So if you give that to the population, it may not confer immunity. This is the problem with the regular flu shot. The regular flu shot is always made against last year's flu. So if last year's flu were to mutate significantly, then the flu shot really renders the flu shot really virtually ineffective, because it's always a year behind. If the flu virus didn't really mutate very much, then it would maybe be effective. But this is going to be very difficult to come up with a vaccine for this virus, I believe, because of those mutations.
Right. And I did review the information with the conference on people making their own choices about whether or not to get the flu vaccine or any vaccine. I mean, because that's a personal choice and freedom that people have. And I know that as a mother, whenever I would take my children to the pediatrician, they said, okay, you have a choice. And you have to sign here, and we're not going to be responsible if something goes wrong with your child. So I remember that. And I think we have to look at it from that standpoint. And then the other thing is that we want to know that our children can be admitted into school, K-12, so, or on their job. So these questions are now at the forefront. And how are we going to be expected to get these vaccines, which as a lot of the doctors like yourself are showing us, and people who are studying this, that there's mercury in the vaccines, and glyphosate, and and what is it, phthalate, and so there's so many different contaminants, and so we each have to make our decision. Do we want to be exposed to those levels of toxicity? And when really they may not even provide the immunity. And I haven't gotten the flu shot, as I was telling someone, because I always just take the zinc, and whenever I get any symptoms of the flu, I take the zinc and it goes away, right? Every 3 hours I do the zinc lozenges, and then I don't have any more symptoms. So I haven't been using the vaccine since then, since I saw the zinc was working.
Right, and that just speaks to the whole point that our own immune system is really our best defense. And definitely vaccines is definitely a choice, and the vaccines really they're dangerously made. They're not regulated, and in fact, if you have a problem with a vaccine, just take childhood vaccines, for instance. These childhood vaccines can cause autism, ADHD in people, and there's really you have no recourse. You can't sue the pharmaceutical companies for that. They're immune from punishment. So you have really no recourse. So everything just falls on, in the case of childhood vaccines, it falls on the parent, and that's it. There is actually a fund that was created for people who have adverse effects from vaccines, which tells you right there they're not safe, because why would they have to have a fund for adverse reactions if they were safe? So the pharmaceutical companies know that these things are dangerous. And I'm sure that, when they come up with a COVID-19 vaccine, it's going to have the same issues. They're going to make it the same way. They're going to put the heavy metals in, the formaldehyde, the glyphosate, the, aborted fetal tissue, kidney, fibroblasts from kidneys of monkeys and all sorts of stuff. We get all sorts of weird stuff in there, and weird DNA that we get exposed to, and that certainly can cause major problems. So again, it's an issue. It's an issue. It's going to be an issue. And if we continue to have freedom of choice of the vaccinations, it shouldn't be an issue as long as we educate people about it. But the fear is that they're going to go ahead and make these vaccines mandatory for everybody. And if you don't get them, then there's going to be severe penalties. So, time will tell what happens.
Well, I have a question about vaccines and tracking devices. So,
yeah, there's been talk of whether or not they put something in the vaccines that help you to be tracked, or if they're going to just make everybody get a little chip put in their right hand and all that sort of thing. But I heard this report the other day by Dr. Buttar, who's really outspoken about everything that's going on, and he was saying how the reason why they're pushing for this 6-foot separation is because when they do tracking of people, they can't really track where you are unless you're 6 feet away from everybody. If you're in a group, they can't really track where you are. So that's why they kind of are starting to get ingrained in our heads about this physical separation type thing, just because it's easier for us to be tracked and our whereabouts to be tracked. So, it's scary, because it's all boiling down to, invasion of privacy, and people kind of knowing where you are all the time, and it's sort of like this Big Brother's watching type thing.
Okay, well, I have another question here, and then I think you can give us your email for people so we can hear from Dr. Lauretta. The last question is, do you think that COVID-19 will disappear like SARS?
It's hard to say, because it's a global pandemic, for one, and there's a lot of things about the virus that we don't know. It's a novel virus. We don't know how this thing is going to react. Environmentally, it seems to be that it likes colder weather, so it may die down in the summertime and then come back again in the fall. We don't know if it does come back. We don't know to what degree it's going to come back and where it's going to show up. You know, a lot of this is we have to do what we can do as far as, you know, keeping our faces covered, keeping our hands washed, and keeping physical separation. But beyond that, we really don't know what this virus is going to do. We can only do what we can do in our capabilities to keep the spread down. But beyond that, the virus is going to teach us as it goes along. You know.
Okay, and so for anyone that needs a consultation, private consultation, your email, Dr. Halstead, can you give us that?
Yes, it's VitaDoc335. That's V as in Victor, ITADOC 335 @gmail.com.
Yes, and all you have to do is send him a request, everyone, and he will send you an assessment form and get you started in a consultation program. So I really appreciate your speaking to us again, and we hope that you will continue to be with us over the next months, because this is an important conversation. We just have to get our video out there to people and get people informed. So I wanted to turn over now to Dr. Lauretta Halstead. And Dr. Halstead, you know, we're talking about a sense of balance in the midst of a societal storm. And so what is your reflection on how do we maintain a sense of balance, and should we contact you? Now, what is your contact, if and what do you do?
I do want to thank you for allowing me to be a participant on this program. I have to say, though, unfortunately, I do have another obligation coming up, so I'm going to have to jump off of here. But my practice basically is contemplative conversations. And you said it very well when you said earlier that I hold a sacred space for people, for families, individuals, families, and we are doing virtual at this time to help people to come to grips with whatever sort of process that you're going through. Collectively, we're going through a traumatic experience right now as a society because of the raised anxiety, the fears about what's going on in the future, the unknown element of this entire equation, the many questions, and there's a grief response in many ways that goes with this as well. And as we know, even in society, people whose families are directly affected, the problem of not being able to do what we normally do as far as gathering together with one another. So that's something that is going to have ramifications in the near future and in the distant future as well.
Well,
so,
everyone, I just want to say that we'll be off here in a minute. So please, Lauretta Halstead, she has a book on Amazon.com, and she can be reached through Facebook as well. So we want to continue to have you with us each month as well. And we do have weekly meetings. We'd like to get you involved with those also, Dr. Halstead, and our listeners. So 7 o'clock, we will be off of here. And I appreciate everyone joining us. And please become a member and work behind the scenes, because we meet weekly for audio visits and we work on projects together. So please be involved, and we'll talk to you soon. And I guess everyone can say goodbye, because I know
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah,
Bye. Thanks.
yes, because this really does close off at 7 o'clock. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you, everyone.